Before I start this video, I'll be moving all the unboxings of all the phones you see to my second channel, as I don't think they're quite as relevant on this channel, and also, you know, getting extra views and subscribers because we're good people. A link to the unboxing of this phone will be a link in the description. They'll be uploaded on the same day so you don't miss out. Also, do you guys want me to make a Snapchat to interact with you all? Not really sure. Let me know in the comments. Anyway, enjoy the video. So, possibly the most anticipated phone of this year, the Pixel by Google. Let me give you the TLDR, just, you know, in case you want to watch 1 minute of this video instead of 20 odd minutes or whatever. This phone is absolutely incredible. Maybe a little bit expensive, but super cool. Definitely the best one I've checked out this year, but not my favourite. With that said, let's jump straight into the build quality and the design. You're getting an all metal and glass phone with this one with chamfers and smooth lines. It's slightly thinner at the bottom to give you an ergonomic design in your hand, and you have something to grip onto because it has flat sides, unlike the annoying phones that I check out. iPhone 7. You're getting this weird glass panel on the top that engulfs the fingerprint sensor and the camera, which is kind of a similar idea to the 6P. Is that only me who's seeing that? It feels quite light, and maybe it's my love of glass phones since I've had both the Nexus 4 and the S7 Edge, but when you have an all-metal phone, it doesn't feel quite as heavy and doesn't feel quite as well made. The mixture of these two are cool, but I just wish that maybe it was an all-metal or all-glass design. The buttons are clicking and tactile, which is an underrated trait, and the black version I have here looks good, although it's more like a grey than a black. You have the display, the camera, and the cool speaker up front, the two speakers, the Type-C port, which is USB 3 for once, on the bottom, the SIM tray on the left, the volume rocker, which I wish was two separate buttons, and a ridged power button on the right, which is good because I love having both sets of buttons on the same side. As you have a headphone jack on the top. Yeah, you have a headphone jack on the top. I would have liked it to be on the top before, but now I wish it was at the bottom. I've kind of moved my love for headphone jacks to the bottom. Metal and glass have a place in my heart, but maybe I'd have liked a full glass back better. I don't know. Also, is it me or those chin and forehead areas huge? Geez, Google, not a fan of those. Maybe you should check out Xiaomi's new phone. Right here. The cameras are things that stand out to me most on a phone, but maybe not everyone. A Google employee called OIS Overkill, this is optical image stabilization, when he was asked why they went with the EIS version, which is electronic image stabilization. And I kind of agree with this, because for video it works super well. You have this very smooth video stabilization that even looks like it's been filmed on a gimbal instead of holding it with your hands. And it's a lifesaver if you're anything like me and you don't have the steadiest of hands. Good move, Google. The camera itself is a 12.3 megapixel sensor with an f2.0 aperture lens and a sensor size of 1/2.3 inches. It can shoot video at UHD 30 FPS, that is different from 4K, remember, 1080p at 120 FPS and 720p at 240 FPS. In low light it performs similarly to the iPhone 7 and Galaxy S7 Edge, but oddly it likes to crank up the ISO more than my S7 Edge does, which results in a grainy and slightly unusable footage. Maybe this is due to the smaller f2.0 aperture over the f1.7 on my S7, but when it comes to taking photos I was impressed. And I'm a camera snob, so it's kind of hard to do. I don't know if I was in the right place at the right time or something, but my god did this thing perform. The clarity is great, but in my experience it likes to pull a warmer image so it doesn't over sharpen things like my S7 Edge does. There is no camera bump as well, which is so refreshing. But is it me, or does the camera bump seem a little bit more impressive? The front shooter is a fairly wide 8 megapixel sensor with f2.4 glass and a smaller 1/3.2 inch sensor. It can shoot 1080p at 30 FPS, which is actually surprisingly usable, and you could probably use this to vlog. You'll find this camera at the top left just above the display, and the aforementioned main camera on the top left of the back of the phone alongside the dual tone flash. HDR Plus is on most of the time on the main camera and really brings out the image in a way that you don't get crushed blacks or overexposed images anywhere near as often as a normal phone. Overall, these cameras are incredible and I'm super impressed with them. Granted, the first-party app could do with a little bit of tweaking, including more settings like Samsung's first-party app, but when it comes down to it, it's a great experience. Quick focusing and almost no shutter lag. I thoroughly enjoyed taking photos on this device. Could I say better than the S7 Edge? I don't know. The screen is a 5-inch 1080p AMOLED affair with a pixel density of 441 pixels per inch compared to the Pixel XL, which is a slightly bigger version which has a 5.5-inch QHD AMOLED display with a pixel density of 534 pixels per inch. Go for the XL for VR, that goes without saying. The screen is great, don't get me wrong, every phone should support an AMOLED display nowadays, but there's something about it. I think it's the fact that it's not 5.5 inches, which would make it a perfect size for me, and it's not a 4.6 or 4.7 inch display, which would make it a small phone, which is also great. It's in that awful spot for me, which kind of makes the screen feel inadequate, which believe me, it's not. Maybe it's also down to the huge chin and forehead too. It's a great display that goes super bright with great viewing angles. It doesn't go too dim, which is a bit annoying, and it's a great way of consuming media. I just would have preferred a higher screen to body ratio, as this is a measly 69%. Either way, a great screen. Performance is another key area with the Snapdragon 821, which is slightly beefed up from the 820. I believe it's a quad-core system on a chip with 2 slightly higher and 2 slightly lower clocked cores, as is to be expected nowadays. It's efficient and the phone is crazy quick. My girlfriend noticed it when we were looking through TVs and cameras by looking through an e-commerce app and then going to Chrome to check out the specs and then back and forth. This thing is blisteringly quick. It just doesn't hiccup and is by far the smoothest Android experience I've ever had. You're getting 4GB of RAM, which has definitely contributed to this super smooth experience, and the device is available in 32GB or 128GB of storage. Next to that, you're getting super smooth gaming performance, and you just can't fault it. Another huge part of this is in the software, which is a great segue. It's running Android 7.1 Nougat. This OS is super smooth and bone stock. The lack of bloat and the abundance of smooth animations and integrations are really cool and give you the feeling the OS is designed for the phone, just like the iPhone 7. Really cool experience. The extra bloat and features are something that made my girlfriend actually prefer the S7 Edge, surprisingly, but maybe it's just down to your preference. Do you want something that's super smooth and super clean, or do you want something with extra features and a little bit extra for your money? I've always loved the stock experience ever since my first interaction with the Galaxy Nexus that came out in late 2011. Google Assistant, which is embedded into the software on the Pixel, is really rather good and is so useful for picking out precise information. I asked it when the aforementioned Galaxy Nexus came out and it found out straight away and it read it out, which is great. It's efficiency with performance and battery life, which makes it the perfect segue to battery life. The battery life is great. The specification is actually a 2770 mAh battery in the standard Pixel, where we have a 3450 mAh in the XL, which is a sizable difference, but we're focusing on the Pixel here, which lasts all day no problem. Even watching 30-minute long YouTube videos and playing games, it will get you through your day with no issues, and sometimes it will leave me with 20 to 30% at the end of the day. Most times it will be at 10% though, and I do have to charge it every night with its included 3A charger and Type-C cable. This claims to charge 7 hours worth of usage in 15 minutes, which is about 70%. It's quick to charge and it lasts a long time, so I can give it that, provided you use the included adapters and cables. Right now, whilst reading out this review, I've actually not charged it overnight and it's on 25%, which means it's lasted over 1 day and 12 hours, with 20% left, which is kind of cool. The fingerprint sensor is quick and pretty accurate, but like the 6P, I just didn't find it all that quick. It's not the quickest ever. Maybe it's just perception on my part, but I didn't feel the fastest ever. Still quicker than most other phones out there and definitely really accurate, but nothing to write home about. I like its placement on the back, and I do like the fact it doesn't require you to press a button to log in, you just touch there. Some people prefer it on the front, but I do like the placement here. The coolest feature for me is the fact you can swipe down on the fingerprint reader to bring down the notification and quick settings panel. Super cool. The speaker's good for a downward or palm-facing speaker, but with that extra space on the front, you really could have put a stereo setup of speakers here, like the previous 6P and 6 had. You could have alternatively used the Cool speaker as a second for semi-stereo speakers, just like the iPhone 7. Cool implementation here. Kind of disappointed it's not on this £600 phone. There's not much else to add apart from the fact that it comes in 4 configurations, which is the Pixel XL, the Pixel, and both of those come in 32 or 128GB versions, and they come in quite black, very silver, and really blue, although I was only able to order from quite black and very silver in the UK. And that's just it. I trace back to my TLDR. The phone is amazing. Is it worth $599 for the base model? Maybe. This is the best phone I've used all year, but definitely not my favourite. That would still be the S7 Edge by a country mile. And I think they should have called the XL the megapixel and given it a higher spec. Is that me? Am I the only one thinking that? Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.